So now the last part of this presentation before we move towards hands-on session is the geographical information system. Geographical information system is basically just a system of integrated computer-based tools for end-to-end processing, that is capture, storage, retrieval, analysis, and display. Intuitively, you can think of it as just as a map coupled with our database, which basically means that, for example, you have this table's location with you, and you associate certain attributes to that table as well. So it is just a map which has a backend database attached to it. You can think of it like this. So it is very important in, you can say, the things that we are going to do, because we want that to analyze a field over a good season. So it basically means you are required to process it in a time series manner. So an image acquired, let's say last week, should once you compare the image acquired to the next week, you should be able to compare it pixel by pixel, or at least area by area basis. For that, it has to be geolocated or geo-registered at least. So for that purpose, this GIS information comes handy while processing and analyzing that data. So GIS data is generally comes into two data formats, that is the raster data and the vector data. The raster data is perhaps maybe more easier to understand. It is just a grid of pixels or grid of cells, and each cell carries a particular value. So the image data that we generally see in the pixels form is basically a raster data. So if we couple it with also the geospatial information, some sort of geospatial information, it will become a geo-raster data. So that is the basic distinction. However, the raster data is simply not just restricted to the image data. You can have other kind of data as well. You will look at it in the form of image, but that carries different kind of information. For example, the digital terrain model or digital surface model. You see that information in the form of an image, and it is a raster data, but it is perhaps not an image. It is information that carries the altitude or other information. So the other type of data, that important data, is the vector data, that also has three distinct categories, that are the point, line, and polygon. Point data is just a single point associated with geospatial information and its attribute. Its attribute could be like what category it belongs to. For example, it is a tree. It is an attribute for that point data. Then there is a line data, which can be like streams, streets. You can represent it, or in the last session we have seen the spline, which is basically a collection of points. So you can think of the line as a collection of points, or a spline, and associated with certain attributes. So, and a polygon, you can always think of it as a boundary box shape, which has certain number of points, and they are fully joined together, and it also carries certain attribute as well. Attribute or attributes as well. In case of raster data, this cell information just carries a single value, whereas in case of vector data, there could be more than one value associated with a single, you can say, single entry. Now, another important thing while discussing the geographical information system are the geographic coordinate system and the projected coordinate system. You may have heard it a lot. So geographic coordinate system is basically a framework defining the locations of the features on a model of the Earth. So Earth is usually modeled as a spherical globe. So if you divide it in the imaginary lines, you will come up with a certain coordinate system. Now, the way you model it in a spherical globe is basically connotes what geographic coordinate systems would be. Secondly is the projected coordinate system. So once you want to see that 3D globe into projected on a 2D surface, like on the screen or in the form of a map on a table, then you have to unroll that 3D spherical globe onto a 2D surface, and with that there are numerous possibilities of doing that, and these numerous possibilities have been incorporated in projected coordinate system. So elaborating a little further, the Earth as we know it, that it is not a perfect sphere, it is basically a geoid like this. It may be definitely a different, different than this, but geoid is basically an irregular spheroid, right? So, but to represent it in a mathematical manner, we need a very regular shape, like a sphere, which basically can be modeled through some sort of equations. So, those equations are modeled using this datum. So this datum basically signifies that what would be the shape of this spheroid, and another important information that this carries is that where that spheroid could be placed while modeling this. For example, in the upper figure, if we place it here, it is modeling this portion of the spheroid geoid very accurately. However, this portion is not being mapped very accurately. Similarly, this portion, if we slightly shift it, then it would be, there would be a slightly added error here, but this error would be reduced. So there is a, you can say, a trade-off between that how you model this geographic coordinate system. That's why there are hundreds or maybe thousands of geographic coordinate systems, and each region or each country or each political territory selects its own geographic coordinate system that suits it better. This World Geodetic System 1984 that you may have heard, WGS 84, very commonly shown. It is basically popular because of the reason that it is a sort of a compromise coordinate system that incorporates these errors if we see the whole world combined. So that's why it is. However, in case of you can say official maps or official you can say the official versions of the maps, the WGS 84 may not be there. Each country definitely has its own preferred coordinate system and projected coordinate system. However, since they have a mathematical backing, each coordinate system and each projected system, so the good part is that all are interconvertible. So if you have a certain map in one coordinate system, you can always apply some mathematical transformations and come up into and transfer your map into a different coordinate system. So the second part was the projected coordinate system. As you can see that if you want to unfold your map onto a 2D surface, you have different options, like you can project it over a cylinder and then unroll that cylinder. It will result in this kind of a map, and if we put a cone on that, you will result into this kind of map. Each map has its own plus and minuses, like sometimes your shape is distorted in one type of projection, while in other type of projection your area is distorted, and while in other you can say the distances get distorted. So each projection has its own merits and demerits. So related to this presentation, that would be all. Now we will be moving towards the hands-on tutorial section. So I will be using QGIS. The reason being that it is an open source geographical information system, freely available with respect to code and even for the usage, and it is linked with an open source community as well. So there are wealth of, you can say, plugins available. So all you need is to identify your basically task that what you want to achieve, and that just search for that plugin, and in many cases you will come up with some good plugin, or at least somewhat related to your task. And even in case you are unable to find one, you can always collaborate and come up with something closely related to your task. So
if I correctly understand, through this software we are just going to initially pre-process the satellite imagery.
We can pre-process or process the satellite imagery from this software, but right now what we are going to do is process or see certain operations of processing the imagery acquired through drone,
Okay.
which has been then converted into the useful products like reflectance maps,
Okay.
using their photogrammetric processing.
That can be further used by the deep learning models too.
Exactly. That imagery could be further used for deep learning, or even for simple, you can say, GIS processing for analysis. So what I'm going to do is, let me just add this image that is required, and for the perspective page, let's also add the base map as well. Okay, so we have acquired this imagery from a center, that is National Agriculture Research Center in Islamabad. This is particularly the image of our rice crop. The reason that why you are seeing that, although it is quite close to RGB image, but it is not exactly how we see when we see the crops or when we see the images. The reason being that this is basically the reflectance map. So although this picture contains the red, green and blue bands, and they are combined together, but they are the reflectance maps. So they have been radiometrically corrected for the reflectance data to be embedded into them. So this is much more useful for analyzing the crop data as compared to the ordinary RGB images. So depending upon your sensor, or depending upon your you can say camera, or your photogrammetric processing pipeline, you end up having these maps in maybe as individual bands, as I've already talked about, like multispectral. We acquired multispectral bands in the form of red, green, blue bands, and then the red edge NMR. Red edge is just sandwiched between red and NMR portion, which is also very highly sensitive to the vegetation or the chlorophyll content of the vegetation. So before moving forward, let me just the reason why you are seeing this RGB as like this, which is much closer to the RGB version, whereas this multispectral, or this basically the layer comprises of the bands in the near infrared and red edge image, and the third band that this camera outputs is the garbage band, which is not required. So the reason why it is shown in this color is because of the way this you can say the way this software is handling the display. It is actually thinking of it is as in terms of a RGB image, so that's why it is showing like this. For example, if I want just to re-emphasize on this, I may change the ordering of the band. So the first band that it has is the red edge band, the second band is the garbage, and the third band is the NIR. So if I switch my third band NIR with the second band, then you will see that this image would be much greener, because the second band RG, G stands for green, so it will turn it into a greenish tinge, because the first band is also there, so red plus green, something yellow is coming out. So this is just you can say visual representation. It does not matter. Now the next thing that I will be showing you. Okay, so
Is this a single image or multiple images stitched together?
these are the multiple images
Stitched together.
that have been acquired through drone imagery,
Okay.
and these are hundreds of images, overlapped images, and they have been undergone through photogrammetric processing.
Process.
After photogrammetric processing, these have been stitched into a single image, or you can say what you are seeing here. Now,
Can you do all that processing that we just discussed in ICESCO?
no, QGIS does not support that initial processing. It does not offer the photogrammetric processing. For photogrammetric processing, you have to use the specific tools like Pix4D Mapper, AGISoft, or WebODM for that. They convert the raw images, raw single, or you can say fragmented images, and turn them into a complete composite map. And once you have that, then you can come on the QGIS and analyze it through QGIS.
And if I remember correctly, that when we were doing that photogrammetric processing, so we were using basic computer vision things like self and all these things. So can we use Python as well, or we need specific software?
You can use anything. These softwares have been matured.
Okay. So they give you
into
better results.
they just give you better results. You can come up with your own algorithm, or you can your own pipeline, and achieve the same results, because the processing pipeline remains the same. However, since they have an experience of over maybe 10 to 20 years, so they have been matured so in a very highly optimized way, so they give you just better results.
So if I understand correctly, these softwares you just give abundant images, multiple images, and they give you an output product.
Exactly.
You don't have to do anything in between with those subset things.
No.
Oh, that's great.
They are just automated.
Okay.
You can say automated pipeline for pre-processing and converting into useful products.
Yes.
And after that hectic part is handled, you can
Yes.
come up here and do the further processing. So, okay, now we have all the 5 multispectral bands that we have, but we have in, you can say, in different channels of these composite images. So what we can do using QGIS, if we want a single band, for example, we have seen that NIR, near infrared band, was very sensitive to vegetation. So let's see that how much it is sensitive, and whether you can say the theory resonates with the claim. So this third band in the multispectral is basically the NIR. So I'm just going to extract that. For that, you can go through the raster and calculator. It is visible here? Fine. You can go to the raster tab, then goes to the raster calculator. Just click the particular band that you want to get, and save it to the location that you want. Maybe I will just save it here.
let's see. So I'll call it NIR. And just click OK. So now I have my another band. I will put it on the top, and you will see that the portion which has a vegetation is much brighter as compared to the portion that is soil based portion. So we can immediately see the value in this maybe that the vegetative part of that you can say the area is much brighter as compared. So let's see that how what is the condition for a red band. So we will go here. From RGB we get the red band. Now we see that while the NIR was much brighter for the vegetative part of that crop, the red is much darker at the same area. So this immediately shows us the you can see that what we have seen in the theory, that the red portion is much less reflected as compared to the NIR. So
And same will be the case, like for example, if we are going for disease.
exactly. Now why this why the NIR portion is much brighter and why red is much darker. The reason behind is that scientists have identified is the presence of chlorophyll content. So the more the chlorophyll, the higher will be the reflectance in the rear infrared part, and the lesser will be the reflectance in the red part of the band. So once the plant is in the stress, which may be due to the maybe biotic reasons like pests or disease, or maybe due to abiotic reasons like flooding or maybe the drought. So the ultimate effect results into the deterioration of the internal structure of the leaf of the plant, which basically results into deterioration of the presence of chlorophyll content. And once that fades, the reflectance becomes distorted. So we will also see that the progression through because we have collected this data over a period of months, this price crop data, and it goes from the vegetative part towards the end of its reproductive part. So once and the fade in the, you can say the fade in the chlorophyll content is not always associated with the bad stuff, or you can say always associated with the negative or deteriorating health. It may also be associated with the senescence, that is the part of the life cycle of a plant, that ultimately the crop matures, and once it matures, it will induce senescence, and the leaf will turn into red or grey, which basically means the chlorophyll content would be lost, and once it is lost, then you can say that the crop is mature and you can now cultivate it. So that is a part of life cycle of a plant, which is also known as phenological progression. So so this you can say that this reflectance pattern not only helps you in identifying the stresses, but it also helps you in identifying the particular phenological stage that the plant is actually at that moment. So it gives a lot of information depending upon how you are looking at it. So we have seen that now that we have seen, we can do one more thing that before moving forward, that you may have heard the vegetation indices, the term vegetation indices. Vegetation indices are simply the arithmetical manipulation of these multispectral bands, or arithmetic combination of these multispectral bands. So what we have seen so far is that NIR reflects, or NIR is very bright for the vegetative part, whereas the red is quite dark for the vegetative part.
part. How we can use this information to our advantage? We can combine both and increase the contrast. Like we can use this normalized difference variation index NDVI and combine it in a way that NIR minus red divided by NIR plus red. So it will give us a value from -1 to +1. So +1 being the you can say the presence of highly vegetative area, whereas the -1 presence of anything other than the vegetative part, maybe the soil or water or something like that. Whereas 0 connotes to diet on vegetation, something like that. So this is how there are multiple vegetation indices. Each has each designed for some specific application, you can say. And among them, we would be focusing on this normalized difference vegetation index, which basically depicts that how higher concentration of chlorophyll content is present in a certain crop at a particular point of time. So let's calculate that using this QGIS. We will again go to this raster tab, go to the raster calculator, and then again we have all the bands: red, green, blue, and red edge, garbage, and NLR. So what we are required is that NLR minus red, and we all are required to do this. Make that information and NLR plus red. Let's save it to the void and so now you will see that it is even more brighter than what we have seen in the NLR image. So
There is noise now.
yes, there will be noise. This is because of the bleeding that or the tiny amount of vegetation that was present here, which was not part of the crop, but you can say
Maybe it can be grass inside the
maybe the grass inside. So that's why you are not seeing the bleeding. So let's see that how we can improve our visualization or improve how we can see this visualization from this software. So what we can do is we can use a different color, pseudo color palette for that. We will just go into the properties, symbology, go to this single band pseudo color, and select this desired color gram. For example, I prefer using this red to green band for this interior because for greener part or the vegetative part it will show the greenest color, and for other parts it will show the red color. Or you can select the other palettes depending on your preference. So just relying on it, and now you can see it is you can say visually it is much more analyzable as compared to the just grayscale. So this is just the visual representation. It does not signify anything. However, for experts, or you can say the domain experts, even they can base their decisions on the using some rapid decision making using the visual aids. Because for example, this what immediately we can infer from this. I have told you about that this is a field for rice, and this is not an ordinary rice field. They basically the job of NARC scientists over there is to come up with the varieties for the rice that are high yielding, stress tolerant, or maybe disease resistant in some way. So what they do is they experiment with a lot of different varieties. They use the local indigenous varieties, combine them with some internationally available material, like from China, India, or maybe some other parts of the region, they interbreed those varieties and come up with the new varieties. Now to assess those new varieties, they have to again cultivate them and see them over a certain over a period of certain years and assess them. So assessing them, you have to continuously monitor them. So one way of doing that is to manually go into the field, take the data of those individual plots and analyze it at end of the season. Or you can use one way is to augment your this analytical skill using the remote sensing imagery and add value to your analysis part. For example, that some of the things that you can infer is that certain varieties are have performed better, like they have a better, you can say the area over which they have grown, while the certain portions of the cultivars are, you can say they have just there is no germination in this part. There is, you can say, 50% germination. So you can immediately derive some of the, you can say, results by just looking at it. However, definitely you have to go in a subjective manner. So you have to go dig deep and go further. So using that, we can do is we can extract the data from the individual plots. So what we want is that we have this plot. We want the NDVI data that basically gives us a single value for a complete plot, like the mean value of that complete plot. We one way of analyzing this would be like this. So for that, what we would be required that we have already covered that we have a raster data and we have a this you can say vector data. So this is a raster data. The raster data is not as much efficient while you can say objectively quantifying something. For that, you are required to convert this data into a vector data. So for vector data, maybe but one thing that you can do is you can draw some polygons over each of these plots, and then you tell the software to give me the average value of that NDVI. So that's what we are going to do. So one manual way of doing this is just going into the layers, create the layer, new shapefile, because this vector data is also known as a shapefile. So let's see. We'll just give it a name. Select it. Let it would be a polygon, and you can also assign a particular geographical coordinate system, which is already there in WS84, but we can always change it. So using this, come to the this edit mode, or editing mode, put a polygon here. Now you see. Similarly, you can do this for every plot. So this is a manual way of doing this. That you have to draw a particular polygon over each particular plot, and this will be quite cumbersome and for doing for this 200 plots. Another automated, or you can say less manual way is to use a plugin called Grid. Search for grid, create grid. Now, what it will do is, it will put a grid over this area. So, what we can do is, where we want a rectangle polygon, then we have to define the area where this grid has to be deployed. So, from we will say say that use this RGB here because we want to draw it around that. So another important thing is that right now this grid coordinate system is WGS 84 that deals with degrees that are very difficult to interpret in terms of distances. So we may convert it into this another coordinate system that would be more aligned with our this objective, which is WGS 84 and this projection system UDM 43. Now we can enter the data in meters. So let's say that our horizontal spacing is 1 meter, our vertical spacing is 1.5 meter. We are not using the overlay because there is no overlap among these, and just run it. Now again, we have got this grid, but it is still quite messy. We can clean it a bit. I will show you a way. And let's see, I have selected all these grids. You can see that it is not aligned, but we can use this rotation tool and more aligned with this grid. And then use this translation tool, put it on these image blocks. Now still, I will show you. Now still, these individual grid patterns are still not on these blocks, and you again have to do manually put each and every plot on its location. So it is still quite hectic, and it is still quite difficult to do that. So that's what we have encountered in our research, and so far haven't come with better, you can say, plugin. There are some plugins, but they do not cater for all the requirements. So for handling that, I have written a code for that purpose. But I will show you that how it is helpful. So, and what would be the input requirements for that? What it requires, what we want is that we want a grid layout in a way that the first box comes here, then the second box comes here, and then 11th box comes here, and so on. So we want a spacing between the grids, which QGIS by default does not offer. We want a sequential, you can say, a pattern, because we also want to label each of these plots. So for that, first of all, the input that is required by that code is that to capture the location from where we want to start. So from this tool, I'm just getting the coordinates of this location on position. So for example, I will just copy and paste those positions. Then the next thing that we want is the size of these plots. So in a horizontal direction, you can measure these plots like from 1 end to 2 end. It is approximately 1 meter, and from top to bottom it is approximately 1.5 meters. So you can enter these values here. Then again, you also want this spacing as well. So this spacing is, let's say, maybe 0.5, whereas this spacing is, let's say, somewhat 0.5 or whatever the value it is. You can just plug in that value here. So again, and the next thing is the orientation. Now you have seen that once we have used the grid layout, it does not care that what was the orientation was required. But here I have tried to cater for that as well. So for example, the orientation that this plot has is 72 meters east. So you can just plug in 71 or 72 and plus 90 because this is you can see oriented in a rectangular fashion. So just you have to add the 90 degree and you will come up with this. You just plug in the values and ultimately you will generate a block. So let me show you this. Now you can see that it quite aligns. So task has been significantly reduced. Quite matches the plot locations of our data. So you see more or less is aligned. So now that we have this vector data, that we know that from where we have to get those values.
But once again, this will be heavily spaced.
Yes, and this is quite common in settings that we encounter because we are working with the NARC and they basically do in a quite systematic manner. It is basically their requirement and they have to follow a certain criteria for using that. And in case for the, you can say for ordinary farms where there is no requirement of such small plots, you are not required to do that. You can easily generate the plots manually quite easily because those will be very less number of plots. So you can see that in this small area there are more than 200 plots. This is not even 1 acre. This is less than 1 acre and there are more than 200 plots. And if you have to draw it yourself, then it would be quite difficult. So you have to come up with some sort of automated way to get it done quite easily. And you have to do it for all, you can say, complete season. So the task becomes much more further. So okay. Now that we have now what we wanted to do was that we want to get that NDVI data from this from these plots. So okay, now what we can do is okay, I can remove it. Okay, that will generate the NDVI data.
So can we publish this notebook as an created grid plugin that also supports?
We can. That is right now in the form of Python code. I have to somehow convert it into a compatible plugin that will be compatible with QGIS in order to. However, the code is available. If anyone wants to use it, he or she can. I'm just generating the NDVI because I removed that. Now, what we want is the mean or some sort of a joint statistic of those plots as a singular value so that we can better analyze it or we can better comprehend it or we can base our analysis on that single value or string of value. So for that, there is a tool called zonal statistics. Basically, it requires the input layer, which would be the ArcGIS are plots that we have generated for which we want that NDVI data. Then there is a raster layer that is required by that. Then the band in which that for which the statistics are required, because it is a single band data, so there is no point in. So again, the output column, we can say that we want NDVI. And these statistics that it can calculate are numerous. That it can count all the pixels, it can sum all the pixels, it can generate the mean of all the pixels, or it can generate the standard deviation, or whatever things that are here, it could be done. Let's just generate the mean. Let's see how it goes. So, now that again it has generated another layer, another vector layer data, which basically contains the mean of individual plots. So, for example, to see this is the first plot. If I highlight this. Okay, this is already there. Yeah, this is the second one, this is the third one. So we are seeing the mean value of the NDVI. Like this plot, for this plot it is 0.36, it is 0.39, it is 0.44. And this is perhaps the data from 1st September. Or you can say that the peak vegetative phase of that transform. And each individual plot has different values, and they vary quite significantly in between. You can see that there are values in 0.3s, 3.5s or 3.6, and there are 0.74 as well. So there is a significant difference between the values of these individual plots. Now, I have told you that we have acquired this data in a time series way. That after each week that we have the data for that. So this is for the 1st September. This is for the 8th September. You can see some changes going on there. Then the 15th September, it has matured significantly. Then this 22nd September, and the last year is 28th. It is almost matured and ready to harvest. Although some of the varieties have not matured as well because there is a variation. So you can see that there is significant variation among the cultivars. So now what we want is that we want the maybe taking the example with NDVI, we want the individual plots for each date of all this. Now one thing we can do is repeat what we have done so far, or we can somehow automate this. Again, I haven't come up with a plugin that does so automatically handles this over a period of time. So again, I have written a short code for that. Here, I have told you that their NDVI or normalized difference vegetation index is just one index, one vegetation index. There are plenty more, and there are wealth of information that each one of them gives. So, in doing so manually, sort of, you have to generate each individual, say, vegetation index individually and extract that for that particular day and then or you can somehow automate this and come with you can say automated code that does it for you in a repeated manner and make it more presentable to you as well. let's see that how we have done it with this one. So I'm just going to run it. Basically, the procedure remains the same that I have shown you in the QGIS. However, this is just code that I have automated using Python. So now it started generating. It will take some time. It is taking so much time because given that huge input or the huge shopping list that these are all the relation indexes that it has to calculate, and it has to calculate it for all the 5 timestamps. So that's why it is taking a bit long. But how do we
So, when you were trying to make the polygons fit on the image, there was a problem because the image was partly tilted. Why don't you straighten it? Why don't you straighten it back and then try to put the polygons?
Okay, you can do it, but what it will do is it will lose its spatial context. You're saying that I just rotate the image instead of rotating that polygon. You're saying this, right? You can do it, and if your system allows it, you can definitely do that as well. But what it will do is, if I just somehow rotate this image or change its orientation, what it will do is this particular, you can say this particular plot will not be at its actual location. Right now, although it is still not accurately presented in this picture, but there are registration, geospatial registration procedures that can align it with the base map as well. So, however, if you do it based on your instinct or based on you can say based on incorrect information, this plot will not remain here. It will go somewhere here maybe after rotation. So in the next timestamp, again you have to bring that plot from here to here, and this cycle will go on. So the purpose of geospatial analysis or GIS analysis is to keep your spatial coordinates aligned and intact instead of just changing them. So instead of doing that, however, if you have some sort of difficulty while seeing this tilted image, what you can do is just you can rotate the whole map using maybe this rotation plus like this. So you can, in case of visual, this is just a visual depiction. This hasn't changed the inherent position of the plot. This has just changed your perspective of looking at it. So if that feels you makes you feel better, then you can definitely do it. For context, because north is in this direction, so that is why it is slightly mistaken.
Okay, so you said also that these pictures were taken using drones.
Yes.
If we were to use satellite images, would we still have the same result? Would be worse?
Satellite image. This portion is the satellite image. You can see, but this part is the drone image, and you can see the difference in the resolution. You can see the individual plots here, even some sort of context of the leaf here. However, if we zoom to the same resolution for the satellite imagery, you lose that. Why is that? Because satellite imagery is not at high resolution, and this is basically a Google imagery or Google satellite imagery.
which particular satellite they have used to acquire that, but that is still quite higher resolution, and that is not generally available to the public. That is only updated after maybe 3 to 4 months on the Google, and that is just an RGB. For the freely available satellite imagery, like the one we are required for analyzing this vegetation, are Sentinel and Landsat. For Sentinel, that is 10 meter resolution, and for Landsat it is 30 meter resolution. And for the context, this is 1.2 centimeter resolution. So it is, you can say, 1,000 times higher resolution than the Sentinel 2 that is freely available. So for analyzing the small plots, like the experiment that we are analyzing it, we won't be able to do that using the satellite imagery that is available. Or we will be requiring very high resolution satellite, which is currently not available for this scale. So invariably we have to come for the drone imagery for this particular case. However, for the larger plots, you can always go for the satellite, and people are using that for the resolution does not matter for big units. So let's see. That is just in the folder, how it has processed. So, it has all. There is also a folder of GLCM, grade level co-ordinate matrices. I haven't covered that in this tutorial, so stick to the analysis part. Okay, it has generated the data for all the indices. That this NAVI is a separate index. That then there is NDYI, normalized difference, yellow index, and all these have certain preferences. So, for example, if I open this NAVI, it has generated individual files for different timestamps, like one 1st September, 8, 15, 22, 27, and in each file it has calculated the mean value of NDVI, the minimum, maximum, median, sum, and standard deviation. Like all the for this sorry, for all these 200 plots, 220 plots, because there are 20 rows. So now I have them in a separate file. I want to analyze them in a single file, that value of mean NDVI of a particular plot for a particular date, and in a single consolidated file. For that, we can combine these. Now there are again, these are validation indices. For example, I want to see the NDVI. Okay. Here it has shown us. Now I have for first plot, I have the mean value of at 1st September, 8th September, 15th September, and so on. So now I can really compare them, for just to show you. Plot. For the first plot, see this one. This is the pattern that the NDVI curve follows for these timestamps. The 1st September, 8th September, 15th September, and 22nd and 28th. You can see that this is the peak that it achieves, and then there is a senescence in the top. And this is because that this is the peak vegetative phase,
then this senescence or reproductive phase of the crop starts. Crop starts turning into yellow, and its curve goes in a downward trend. So you can see similar sort of, or you can draw similar conclusions or analyze it in a similar way for all these indices, which connotes different type of, you can say, for different purposes. And other thing we can do is maybe let's just take the average of a single date, and let's see that what that average might be. And that's what. Now see that this basically if we want to see that what is the typical pattern of a rice crop, because we have so many varieties, 220, you can safely say, assume that this is the pattern that the rice crop follows with respect to its let's say chlorophyll content, and this is a proxy of a NDVI, this is a proxy of a chlorophyll content. So you can associate your chlorophyll content with this. So, or I could briefly show you another important thing, that the way we calculate the height of these crops using the same imagery. We haven't used any radar or something like that. We have just used this. Okay, one thing that we have also derived from this the photogrammetry processing was these digital surface model, right? Digital surface model basically holds the height information from surface for each point of that space. So using that, we can derive the individual plots of the height, which is obviously very important for the plant scientists, because once a particular variety achieves more height, it is highly susceptible to lodging or falling, which you can see here as well. That some of the plots are in some of the plots there is a lodging, whereas other plots are better suited or better. This you can see this pattern. This is because of the lodging that has occurred. And once it happens in certain varieties, then their growth pattern stops there and their yield deteriorates. So these are kind of the parameters or traits that farmer or that the plant scientists tend to avoid or discourage. So another important characteristic that they want to measure is the height of the plant. So again, then a simple way is to go to each plot, measure the 5-6 plants in each plot, take the average and note down in the notebook, or you can use it in some sort of automated. So one way of doing is using remote sensing. There are plenty of options, like you can use radar, which gives a much more accurate height parameter. However, we have used simple imagery using structure from motion. We derived this digital surface model and come up with a height model of that plot. What we basically what we got from the from that let's say that photogrammetry processing. After that, we have got this one, this map. This holds the information for each plot like this. That so this is the height in meters from the sea level of that particular surface. So, and this one is again the height of now. I enable this. So you can see that this is a plain soil, while this is crop. So if I just minus this from this, I'm going to get the height of this plot. So I have to somehow automate this process of sampling these soil points and using that generate a digital terrain model using the interpolation and just subtract this digital surface model from that digital terrain model, and I will come up with a crop height model which gives me the height. So what I have done was using this, I have come up with a validation mask which is this one. You can see that I have the portion that is that does not comprise of soil. I have put them in a validation mask. Then using that validation mask, I have derived the soil mask. That other than that would be a soil mask obviously. And I have then sampled those soil mask points and sampled for that height points, and using that height point, I have come up with this digital model using just interpolation, because these points, each of this point has information of the height of that particular surface. If I somehow interpolate all these points on that surface, I am going to get the digital terrain model of that complete surface. Now I have let's say this complete terrain of that surface. Now all I am required to do is that just subtract this digital surface model from this digital terrain model. Ultimately, I will get this digital height point, which will be height of individual parts. Again, I just particular value I want to see. This is 0.92 meters, approximately 100 centimeters. So that would be the typical height of this plant, or you can say cavity. Again, you can. This is the raster data. Again, if you want to convert that into let's say vector data or in the form of Excel sheet, you can use the zonal statistics and count those stats. That's it.
Is this interpreted DTM more accurate than the DTM automatically generated by SEECS?
It depends on the way you interpolate. So your interpolation is highly dependent on the points you have sampled. So you have to ensure that the points that it is sampling are the ground points. For example, that now you can see that this although the crop plot is this, there is a significant gap between these two. However, once this digital surface model is constructed, it has certain errors. It is basically a spilled version of that. It is basically diffusing. So we don't want to sample this point because there is, for that, there is no soil. It is basically already some sort of error prone. We want to ensure that the point we are sampling should be the soil point in the digital surface model as well. So that's how your soil mask would be very important for that. You have to generate very accurate soil mask if you want to sample this or interpolate your digital surface.
Maybe in order to generate that soil mask, instead of using these polygons, you can also use some index again to.
Again, you can use it. I have tried it, but that was quite noisy. So the results for this way, the results were better than restricted, because we have to ensure that no portion of this error that it has generated should come here.
Another approach could be what I was thinking, because we also like encountered the same problem. Maybe we can do that. Use an index which corresponds to vegetation. Use it to create a vegetation mask. Use an index which corresponds to bare soil. Use it to create a soil mask. Then randomly sample points from both of these masks, and then only use those points which are mutually exclusive in both masks. They are not common in the.
This is the mask that was I was able to generate. Now the problem with this mask is that you can see that there is quite a bit of sparse region. However, if we see the DSM, digital surface model, it shows that
If we use this mask to sample, then it will sample points from between those
points and your interpolation will be affected. So we want to ensure that a particular point we are sampling, it has to be sampled as if it is sampled from a soil portion of the digital surface model. Because your digital surface model is actually not very accurate due to its inherent limitation that lies in the photographic processing. That's why that will do all from my side.
You said that when trying to look at the sea and the sun and the snow, it's difficult to get by
The reason why that terrains such as water bodies or snow areas are difficult to model, to map. That's what you asked, right? Okay, they are difficult to model because for that, for example, there is just a plain water body. Whole sea would comprise, from above you would be looking at a blue sort of a homogeneous blue pattern. There would be no features. What are the features in terms of you can say computer vision? We consider features like the corners or the edges. They are considered the features. So if I am looking, for example, at this wall, I am immediately seeing this this bifurcation of this you can say this panel on this wall. Had it not been there, there would have been a complete flat wall. There would have been no feature. I wouldn't be able to tell if I am looking in isolation that portion of the wall, that if it is that portion of the wall or it is that portion of the wall. However, if there is some interesting features like there is a board, there is a screen, I would immediately have number of features from where I would be better able to distinguish between individual items. So that is very necessary while you can say during the processing pipeline of photogrammetric processing, the initial step where we are selecting the time points. So that is why it is difficult to map flat surfaces rather than the more interesting ones.
So is it possible to use images to survey the sea or fish, for example?
Sorry.
Is it possible to use drones to survey what's in the water? Or
Yes, it is also a part of remote sensing, and there are certain you can say sensors that can be able to do that. Primarily, usually that is done using the ultrasound. You may have listened to how the submarines are detected underwater. They are detected through ultrasound or sonars. So what they do is they send sound signals within the sea, because sound sound waves can travel through the water. However, the usual electromagnetic waves are usually not usually cannot you can say pass through the water. The typical this visual spectrum, or maybe this you can say NLR. However, maybe there is a possibility that microwaves to some extent, not to a greater depth, but to a lesser depth, the microwaves can also penetrate through some part of the water. But they also have limitations. All the best course of action would be, I think, the sonars, because they have the ideal characteristic of while traveling underwater. So they would be better suited for underwater.
Here we are able to use images to survey crops on the land. What if I want to look at the growth of coral in the sea? If I want to see which are dead, which are living,
I do not have the answer right now, but I think that maybe the microwaves in certain portion, maybe because microwaves, you may have heard the synthetic aperture radars, and some of the synthetic aperture radars can penetrate at least lands or the surface up till a certain point, a certain portion they operate in. So maybe there may be a band among microwaves that can penetrate through the water up till a certain depth. So maybe that could be used, but I'm not sure.
So waves that have smaller wave can penetrate further down.
Smaller wave can penetrate. That is not usually the case. That is not the rule. There is a possibility. For example, these microwaves, they have a higher wavelength as compared to near infrared and visual spectrum. However, there is a portion of microwaves that can penetrate the surface, whereas the visible spectrum or NIR cannot. However, on the other hand, similarly, there are X-rays and many gamma rays are very dangerous. Or the X-rays, they can penetrate the bodies, certain bodies. So you can say that I wouldn't say that it is a rule, but it will definitely depend on the characteristic of a particular surface